What's up, everyone? So I had this idea the other night that it might be kind of fun to just dig into the creative process a little bit and just kind of show you how I take a real simple idea and build it into a whole track. It's not for anything. This is just a real simple idea I just recorded for the purpose of this video. Lately, I've been doing a lot of these, not a lot, but a lot of these cinematic meditations, I call them, just because they're all kind of inspired by movie sounding soundtracks, and it's just fun to kind of write in that style, and it's what I enjoy doing. So I'll play you this idea. I just recorded this. So real simple idea. And what I thought would be kind of fun was to kind of dig in a little bit. There's a lot of different things we can do with just even a simple idea like this. The fun part about it is, I think one of the fun parts is trying to figure out like if you can make little changes here and there that make it sound totally different or a little bit different, just to add a little bit of spice, if you will. So, for example, if we're just playing with this, even just going in and editing notes is sometimes enough. So we like the beginning one. So you can hear the one at the very end. That's different than this. It's just something just a little bit different, just to make it sound more like a complete phrase rather than one phrase repeated twice. But let's see if there's anything else we can do with just these notes. We can make that a seventh. So that was one change that made the entire phrase sound just a little bit different. And now again, it's like one complete phrase rather than two phrases repeated twice. So let's see what else we can add. I've loaded up a few tracks. I use the Composer Cloud from East West. There's a ton of different stuff in here. I've got a lot of libraries downloaded, as you can see. So let's just go in and screw around with some strings. It's kind of a softer piano part, so why don't we just start with something soft? I happen to know that these sound really good. Get some verb on there. There we go. Call that. So what we could do is I could just repeat this. I'm take a bit more of a minimalist approach when I'm writing. So for me, I tend to start with repeating ideas, and then I'll go back and just see what I can change later on in the recording process. So if I just make these the same, what I can do is I can take this. I'm sure there's a faster way to do this, so if any of you know any shortcuts, I am all ears in the comments below. I'm relatively new to Logic. I haven't had it for very long. I bought it probably last year and have only messed around with it a little bit. So to me, this has always been kind of the best way to learn a DAW, is just get in, start using it, and then figure things out as you go. Let's see if it flows all right. Okay, yeah, it works. So let's see if we can add a second element, maybe right in after this. No, that's too much. Okay, it's a starting point. There's going to be wrong notes. There's going to be stuff that sounds terrible. The whole idea is to just kind of get in and show you the process of writing. That's the beauty of being able to record and re-record and edit on the fly and all that. So the main idea in here is that, another thing that you can do when you're writing stuff like this that's simple is look for the melody in what you've recorded, and pull it out and see what you can do to it. So in our case, the melody is something like. So what we could do is highlight that a little bit with something else. And there's so many ways we can do that. This is where it's almost intimidating. You're looking at a basically blank slate. You could literally take it anywhere. Whenever I write something, almost never, when I'm just kind of writing something like this based on a simple idea, do I have any idea where it's going to go by the time I'm finished with it. But what I do know is I can usually kind of feel when something is going in the right direction or when I feel like it should be finished. So why don't we just go in and see what fun instruments we have that can highlight that. All right, so here we've got some cello. Let's see if anything comes out of this. So we could do something like that, but I don't think that that's quite the right sound for what we want. So now we can go in and try and find something else. Maybe something. All right. I didn't want to bore you guys with me going in and trying to find something that sounded like it was going to work. But so what I did was I went in and I found a synth that sounded kind of cool. It's from Forbidden Planet. It's got mod wheel control, but I thought it was a nice kind of quiet synth that could work well here. And we can always record something, go back and change it if we decide that it doesn't work with the final piece. But for now, let's just roll with it. I also there was some issue with the tuning of the piano, and I know it was the preset that I chose. So I just went in and edited that a little bit, so it's a little nicer. But for now, let's just record something. Try. Oh, you know what? I have a better idea. let's do that, and we'll pull that back. That's kind of a dramatic entrance, but what we'll do later in the mix is maybe just have it fade in. Savey save. Gotta get used to the hotkeys. I could have just done Command S. Like I said earlier, if anyone sees anything that I'm doing, then you know of a way that I could do it faster, I'm all ears. Okay, where do we go from here? So this whole section to me sounds like it is going to lead into something different after this. So I could copy paste this again and continue building it, or we could try something a little bit different. So here's where we start messing around with the piano a little bit, and you're going to hear it's a little different. It's a much cleaner sound. That's what we were doing. It almost, to me, it feels like it wants to go here. Somewhere in here. We could do the little John Williams, you move up a whole step. It's kind of pretty. I would say, but I mean, my style is a little bit more simplistic. I'm not trying to do anything crazy with this track. So why don't let's just record something. One thing I learned relatively recently is that Logic by default doesn't have MIDI chase turned on. That's what enables me to start in the middle of this section right here. So if you go into your project settings here and you go to MIDI, then you can go to chase and turn that on here. And that'll allow you to start in the middle if you have these really long sustained notes like that. I just learned that one recently. But if you've got instruments like a piano that have a lot of articulations like this that are constantly changing, you don't want to have those do the chase because it almost triggers all the notes at the same time and it's just a little bit weird. So if you go in under the track here and you click no transpose right there, then you won't get the chase effect with this, which is, it's just a little bit cleaner. And I can show you what I mean at some point when we have a better example. But anyway, let's just record something just to get something down here. That's what I was trying to hit. Let's go in and fix that note. Where was that? That's that one. That's better. Quick little save. I kind of like that actually. It's a nice little. It's got like an 80s vibe, that synth. I kind of like it. Let's just roll with it, just for shits and giggles. Let's just see what we get out of it. So that was down here. So it's kind of nice to have you can have this change in timbre, or octave rather, just to have it a little bit lower. We could keep it up here, but I want to kind of keep it moving. So how could we do that? We can introduce a different instrument. Let's try this. I have an idea. All right. These are nice. Let's see, I think. Maybe a little nicer than the synth. Maybe we keep the synth kind of in the middle, and then we have these the cello come in at the bottom. Kind of hear something we can do after that, but for the moment, let's oh shit, did I record both of those at the same time? Well, it's kind of cool, but I'm not so sure if I like that a whole lot. I'm gonna dump that. We can have this note, this kind of a lead in, we can have that fade into eventually. But for now, what I heard after this part, that could be kind of fun, is to go here. Somewhere up there maybe, but why don't we just play around with this part here a little bit more, and we'll see what that gets us. Back to where we were and do that whole thing again. That again and drop it an octave. Okay. I'm just going to copy this in for speed's sake here. Let's do that. Again, probably a much faster way to do this. There we go. Maybe we just increase. And this is kind of the fun part. You play with ideas, you see what you like, and if you're not like hell yeah about something, then you can always try something totally different. So in this case, it almost makes more sense to go back to what we were doing at the very beginning. So then maybe we bring the synth back in. Almost feels like another 16 bars is too much. So let's dump that. Because it is kind of a repetitive phrase, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no right or wrong here. But what's going to be interesting is the question. So here's my thought. So we go back to this beginning part, and then we're going to add a little bit more in here. So it's just a little bit fatter. And then after that, something totally different. And we'll see what that ends up being when we get there. But I think probably something with a little bit more movement. Yeah. Let's see here. All right, so it's about a minute and a half. That's about right. But usually these tracks, this is probably like the 5th one that I've done of these, and usually they seem to be about 6 or 7 minutes. So that's about right for a transitionary point. So let's do this. Let's do a quick little save, and see what we're gonna do after that. Something like that, and then have those be kind of set underneath timbre wise, and then we have the synth on the lower end, or maybe we flip-flop it. Let's see what it sounds like here. Nice little lead in. I'm not totally sold on this synth. I feel like it doesn't quite fit, but we can always go back and change it. The point is the part, not necessarily the sound. nice and open. Okay. Maybe we bring these back. But just to give you an example of what it would sound like if I didn't have the transpose checked versus. And that's not super dramatic, but when you have a piano with slightly higher velocity, it can trigger all of them at once at like a real hard. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's a little dramatic, which is why I have that checked off. Have these come back in. Boom. Then we have something happen there, but we don't know what yet, and that's the fun part. So far, so good. I'm just not sold on this synth. We'll think about it. We'll come back to it. So let's listen to what we got so far. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to change the synth, I think, or at least maybe edit what it's doing. There's a few other things I heard in there. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but so you can see right here, I use the mod wheel. You can see the inputs right there to have this crescendo just a little bit. And when I recorded this and that at the same time without realizing it, you can see the mod wheel got recorded there, which is why we heard the little flutter at the very end. So that'll probably come out. But for now, this is fine. I like what we've got here. It's a nice little starting point for whatever happens next. And then after this, might be kind of fun to have, you know, a little something with a little bit more movement and something perhaps we had that thematic idea earlier, you know, this. We have that we have that come back in perhaps a different way, and we'll see where it takes us. But that's the fun of this. It doesn't really matter. There's nothing. This is again. This isn't for anything. This is just for me, just because it's fun. So, and that's the beauty of composition. It's for you, you know. So you can do whatever you want. The fun part is looking for little ways to make things just a little bit more interesting. And like I said earlier, I like to start very simply. Like this is pretty darn simple. There's really not a whole lot to this. I'm just doing what sounds kind of cool and what's pretty for this particular, this idea that we came up with. So then the fun part about composition, like I said, is going back, and it'll be going back to see what we can do in here to add little bits and bobs that are more interesting, that give it a little bit more character, a little bit more flavor. So maybe we do that in just a little bit, but I need some more coffee, so I'm going to do that, and we'll get back to you.